The stars had never seemed so quiet until the human ships appeared. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. After 3 months of careful negotiations through long-distance communications, humanity was finally meeting the Galactic Council face-to-face. The station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. It sparkled with thousands of lights and moved with the grace of something that had never known the touch of gravity. "Impressive," muttered Commander Rodriguez from beside her. "Makes our ships look like fishing boats." Chen nodded but kept her expression calm. The human delegation consisted of 3 ships, her flagship Horizon, the destroyer Prometheus, and the frigate Newton. Compared to the alien vessels they had seen, the human ships looked rough and industrial. Where alien ships curved and flowed like works of art, human ships were all angles and function. They looked like what they were, machines built for war. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though the words came with an odd musical quality that marked the speaker as alien. "Human vessel Horizon, you are cleared to dock at Bay 7. Welcome to Unity Station. The Council awaits your arrival." Chen took a deep breath. This was it. After decades of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they were about to take their place among the stars. Or at least they hoped they were. The docking process went smoothly. Human engineers had studied the alien specifications carefully, and their ships fit perfectly into the provided berths. Chen noticed several alien vessels nearby, each one looking more advanced than anything in human space. They seemed to float rather than thrust, moving with technologies that humanity could only dream of. Ambassador Veltar was waiting for them in the docking bay. He was tall and thin with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Zephyrians, were one of the founding members of the Galactic Council. He wore flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light, and his large eyes studied the human delegation with what might have been curiosity. "Welcome, humans," Veltar said, his voice carrying that same musical quality. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic. The Council is eager to learn about your species." Chen stepped forward and offered a formal bow. "Ambassador Chen of the United Earth Systems. We're honored to be here." Veltar's expression was polite but distant. Behind him stood several other aliens, each representing different species from across the galaxy. Chen recognized some of them from the briefing materials. The massive bear-like Corvallians with their thick fur and heavy build. The insect-like Razanti with their chitinous shells and compound eyes. The ethereal hegemony representatives who seemed to be made of living light. As they walked through the station, Chen was amazed by what she saw. The corridors were vast and beautiful, with walls that seemed to be made of flowing water or captured starlight. Aliens of dozens of different species moved through the halls, some walking, others floating, a few seeming to phase in and out of existence. "Your ships are quite interesting," Veltar said as they walked. "Very practical in design." There was something in his tone that Chen didn't like. It sounded almost condescending, like he was commenting on a child's drawing. "We build for function over form," Chen replied carefully. "Our ships need to be reliable and effective." "Of course," Veltar agreed. "Most younger species focus on such basic concerns. You'll find that as you advance, you'll discover more elegant solutions to the challenges of space travel." They entered a massive chamber that took Chen's breath away. The council chamber was a sphere nearly a kilometer across, with platforms floating at different levels throughout the space. Representatives from hundreds of different species filled the platforms, and in the center, a holographic display showed star maps and data streams that Chen couldn't begin to understand. "The Galactic Council has existed for over 50,000 years, Veltar explained. "We have brought peace and prosperity to over 10 million worlds. We hope that humanity will one day join us in this great work." "One day?" Chen asked. Veltar's expression became apologetic. "Please understand, membership in the Council requires certain standards. Technological advancement, social development, military capability. Most species require several centuries of guidance before they're ready." Chen felt her jaw tighten. "What kind of military capability?" "The galaxy can be a dangerous place," said a new voice. Chen turned to see a massive figure approaching them. General Crixith of the Corvallian Empire was easily 3 meters tall and covered in thick, dark fur. His species looked like someone had crossed a bear with a tank and given it the intelligence to build starships. Pirates, rebels, rogue AI systems. Crixeth continued. Council members must be able to defend themselves and contribute to the common defense. Your species, while charming in its enthusiasm, lacks the advanced weaponry necessary for serious military operations. Chen's diplomatic training kicked in, keeping her voice level. We'd be happy to demonstrate our defensive capabilities. Crixeth chuckled, a sound like an avalanche with a sense of humor. I've reviewed your technical specifications, Ambassador. Kinetic weapons? Chemical propellants? Such systems were abandoned by most species before they achieved interstellar travel. Our weapons use electromagnetic acceleration, Chen said. Railguns and mass drivers. They're quite effective. This caused actual laughter from several of the nearby aliens. Veltar held up a hand for silence, but his expression was amused. Forgive us, he said. It's just that electromagnetic acceleration has significant limitations. The power requirements alone make it impractical for ship-to-ship combat. Most species discover energy weapons and defensive screens within their first 1,000 years of space travel. We achieve significant velocities, Chen insisted. A new figure joined the conversation. Dr. Cythera of the hegemony looked like a tall, thin humanoid made of crystalline light. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The reports claim velocities of 3% of light speed, she said. This is physically impossible without exotic matter manipulation or zero-point energy extraction. Neither technology appears in your ship designs. With respect, Chen said, our physics teams would disagree. Dr. Cythera's form flickered, which might have been the equivalent of a shrug. Physics is physics, Ambassador. Energy requirements increase exponentially with velocity. Your ships simply don't have the power generation capacity for such weapons. General Crixth nodded approvingly. The Council appreciates humanity's creative approach to military technology. However, real warfare requires sophisticated energy weapons, quantum shields, and exotic matter manipulation. Your kinetic weapons, while historically interesting, are simply not viable against modern defensive systems. Chen looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien representatives. Some seemed genuinely interested in humanity. Others appeared bored, and a few looked actively dismissive. She realized that to them, humans were just another primitive species with delusions of grandeur. Perhaps, Veltar said gently, humanity would benefit from a period of observation and learning. We have educational programs that could help your species develop more advanced technologies. In a few centuries, you might be ready for associate membership. The casual dismissal hit Chen like a physical blow. Centuries, they were talking about humanity like children who needed to grow up before being allowed to sit at the adult table. We appreciate the offer, Chen said carefully, but we believe humanity has more to contribute than you might think. I'm sure you do, Veltar replied with that same condescending smile. Most young species overestimate their capabilities. It's perfectly natural. As the formal presentations continued, Chen found herself growing increasingly frustrated. Every time she mentioned human technological achievements, the aliens responded with polite dismissal. Their fusion drives were quaint. Their industrial capacity was limited. Their military doctrine was primitive, but it was the weapons that drew the most amusement. When Chen described the specifications of their main battlecruiser's railgun systems, several aliens openly laughed. When she mentioned the kinetic energy delivered by their projectiles, Dr. Cythera actually ran calculations in real time and declared the figures physically impossible. By the end of the day, Chen realized that humanity had been written off before they'd even arrived. To the Galactic Council, humans were just another backward species that would need centuries of guidance before they could join the ranks of civilized worlds. As they returned to their ships, Commander Rodriguez spoke quietly to Chen. They think we're idiots. Yes, Chen replied. They do. Should we show them otherwise? Chen was quiet for a long moment. The diplomatic part of her said to be patient, to work within the system, to prove humanity's worth slowly and carefully. But another part of her, the part that had grown up reading about humanity's greatest victories against impossible odds, wanted to show these condescending aliens exactly what humans were capable of. Not yet, she said finally, but soon. 3 months had passed since the first meeting at Unity Station. Agent Sixra of the Galactic Intelligence Network sat in her office, staring at a stack of reports that nobody else wanted to read. Each report told the same impossible story, and each one was being ignored by her superiors. Sixra was a Velkari, a species known for their analytical minds and attention to detail. Her people had served as the galaxy's intelligence gatherers for thousands of years. She had 4 eyes, each capable of seeing different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, and her brain could process information at speeds that made most species dizzy. Right now, all of that analytical power was focused on one question: why was everyone ignoring what was happening in human space? The first report had come from the Razanti Merchant Guild. A convoy of trading ships had been attacked by pirates near the human colony of New Geneva. This was nothing unusual. The Razanti were always complaining about pirates, and the Outer Rim territories were known to be dangerous. What made this report interesting was what happened next. A human patrol ship, the frigate HFY Defiant, had responded to the distress call. According to the surviving Razanti, the human ship had destroyed 3 pirate vessels in less than 30 seconds. The pirates had been using standard Corvallian military surplus ships, complete with energy shields and plasma cannons. The human frigate had killed them all without taking a single hit. The Razanti survivors claimed that the human weapons were invisible death. They said the pirate ships had simply exploded, with holes punched clean through their hulls. No energy discharges were detected. No plasma beams. No particle cannons. Just sudden, catastrophic destruction. Sixra had filed the report with a note recommending further investigation. Her supervisor, Director Tysik, had marked it as unreliable witness testimony and filed it away. The second report came 2 weeks later. This time it was a hegemony research vessel that had witnessed human combat capabilities. Dr. Morden had been studying a nebula near human space when his ship detected weapons fire. Through the research vessel's advanced sensors, he had watched a human destroyer engage 4 Razanti pirate ships. Dr. Mordoon's report was more detailed than the merchant testimony. He had recorded energy readings, tracked projectile paths, and measured impact velocities. According to his instruments, the human weapons were firing solid projectiles at velocities that should have been impossible. The projectiles moved so fast that they appeared to travel instantaneously across the battlefield. Impossible, Director Thisik had said when Sixra presented the report. Dr. Morden must have miscalibrated his instruments. No species achieves such velocities without exotic matter manipulation. The third report came from an unexpected source: the Corvallian Navy itself. Captain Grothick had been conducting anti-piracy operations when his squadron encountered a human merchant convoy under attack. The humans had politely declined assistance, stating that they could handle the situation themselves. Captain Grothick had watched through his ship's sensors as 2 human escort frigates engaged 8 pirate vessels. The engagement lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it was over, all 8 pirate ships were destroyed or disabled. The human ships had not taken any damage. The projectiles moved faster than our targeting computers could track. Captain Grothick had written, impact velocities exceeded anything in our database. The energy release from each impact was equivalent to a tactical nuclear weapon. Director Tysik had dismissed this report as well. Captain Grothick is known for his tendency toward exaggeration. Besides, if human weapons were truly that effective, why would they be asking for council membership? Advanced species don't need our help. Sixra had tried to point out the flaw in this logic, but her director had already moved on to other matters. The reports kept coming. A Zephyrian patrol encountered human ships engaging smugglers. A hegemony trading post watched humans destroy a raider base in less than 10 minutes. Each report told the same story. Human weapons were impossibly fast, impossibly powerful, and completely ignored every defensive system known to galactic science. But each report was dismissed for the same reasons: unreliable witnesses, miscalibrated instruments, exaggerated claims, the idea that a species that had only discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago could possess weapons superior to those used by civilizations thousands of years old was simply too ridiculous to consider. Sixra had started her own investigation. She pulled records from across the galaxy, looking for any mention of human military activity. What she found was disturbing. In the 6 months since first contact, human ships had been involved in over 30 combat encounters. They had fought pirates, raiders, smugglers, and rogue AI drones. In every single engagement, the humans had won decisively. Not one human ship had been destroyed. Not one human ship had even been seriously damaged. The pattern was always the same. Human ships would maintain distance from their targets. They would fire weapons that produced no visible beam or energy signature. Their targets would suddenly develop massive holes in their hulls and either explode or lose power completely. Sixra had tried to get sensor readings from these engagements, but the data was always incomplete. The human weapons moved too fast for most sensors to track properly. By the time the sensors registered the impact, the projectile had already hit its target and passed through. She had managed to recover some physical evidence from the wreckage of destroyed ships. The analysis was shocking. The damage patterns showed entry and exit wounds that could only be created by solid projectiles moving at enormous speeds. The projectiles themselves appeared to be made of simple tungsten or depleted uranium. Nothing exotic. Nothing that violated known physics. Just ordinary matter moving very, very fast. Sixra had presented her findings to a meeting of senior intelligence officers. The response had been predictable. Agent Sixra, Fleet Admiral Yothran, had said, "You're suggesting that a species that still uses chemical rockets for atmospheric flight has somehow developed weapons that surpass our most advanced military technology. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?" "The evidence supports the conclusion," Sixra had replied. "The evidence is clearly flawed," the Admiral had shot back. "Either the witnesses are lying, the instruments are broken, or the humans are using some kind of holographic deception. No species develops such weapons without first mastering energy manipulation and exotic matter physics." General Krixt had nodded in agreement. "I've seen the human technical specifications myself. Their ships use primitive fusion reactors and simple electromagnetic acceleration. The power requirements for their claimed weapon performance would drain their entire ship's power grid in seconds. What if they've found a more efficient way to generate or store power?" Sixra had asked. Dr. Cythara had answered from her position at the conference table. "Agent, I have studied physics for over 3,000 years. Energy is energy. Mass is mass. There are no shortcuts to the fundamental laws of reality. If humans had discovered some revolutionary new physics, we would detect the energy signatures of their technology." But that was exactly what bothered Sixra. There were no energy signatures. Human weapons produced almost no electromagnetic emissions. They didn't heat up the surrounding space. They didn't create exotic particle cascades. They just accelerated ordinary matter to extraordinary speeds using simple electromagnetic fields. After the meeting, Sixra had been reassigned to more pressing matters. Her investigation into human military capabilities was officially closed. The reports were filed away in a database that nobody ever checked. Sixra continued her investigation in her spare time. She analyzed shipping records, tracked communication intercepts, and studied any available footage of human ships in action. The more she learned, the more concerned she became. The humans weren't just good at fighting pirates. They were revolutionarily good at it. Their weapons could punch through any known defensive system. Their ships could destroy targets at ranges that made traditional space combat impossible. And they were building more ships every month. Intelligence reports from human space showed massive industrial expansion. Shipyards were being constructed in every human system. Orbital manufacturing platforms were pumping out new vessels at an incredible rate. Most concerning of all, every new ship was armed with the same mysterious weapons that nobody in the galactic community seemed to take seriously. Sixra had tried one more time to warn her superiors. She had compiled every piece of evidence she could find into a comprehensive report titled Reassessment of Human Military Capabilities, Urgent Security Implications. The report was 847 pages long and included sensor data, witness testimony, physical evidence, and her own analysis of human industrial capacity. Director Thysic had read the first page and thrown the report in his waste disposal unit. "Agent Sixra," he had said, "you're letting your imagination run away with you. Yes, humans are surprisingly effective against pirates and raiders. This is because pirates and raiders are poorly equipped and poorly trained. Any real military force would crush human ships without difficulty. What if you're wrong?" Sixra had asked. "I'm not," Thysic had replied, "and I'm ordering you to stop this investigation immediately." The message arrived at Unity Station on a standard diplomatic channel, but its contents were anything but standard. War Prince Thysic of the Corvalian Empire stood before the assembled Galactic Council. his massive form radiating the confidence that came from commanding the largest military force in known space. "The matter is simple," Thisek announced, his voice carrying easily through the vast council chamber. "Humanity has been allowed to operate freely in contested space for too long. Their expansion threatens established trade routes and territorial agreements. It is time for them to learn their place." Ambassador Veltar shifted uncomfortably on his platform. "War Prince, humanity has made no aggressive moves against any council member. Their expansion has been limited to uninhabited systems." "Uninhabited by them," Thisek corrected. "The Corvallian Empire has ancestral claims to several systems that humans now occupy. Additionally, their presence disrupts the carefully maintained balance of power in that region." General Krix nodded approvingly from his own platform. The two Corvallians had been allies for centuries, and their combined military might made them one of the most powerful factions in the council. "What exactly are you proposing?" asked Dr. Scythara, her crystalline form flickering with what might have been concern. Thisek activated a holographic display that showed the human-controlled systems. Red markers appeared over 7 different colonies, including some of humanity's most important industrial centers. "Humanity will surrender these 7 systems to Corvallian administration," he declared. "They will also accept a tribute payment of 10 million standard credits annually, and they will limit their military forces to no more than 50 vessels. In exchange, the Corvallian Empire will guarantee their protection and eventual consideration for council membership." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species supported the Corvallian position, seeing it as a reasonable way to integrate a new species into the galactic order. Others were uncomfortable with the aggressive terms, but few were willing to oppose the Corvallian Empire directly. Ambassador Chen had been watching the proceedings from the human observation platform. She had no official voice in council debates, but she was allowed to witness discussions that directly affected humanity. As she listened to the casual discussion of surrendering human worlds, she felt her diplomatic training warring with her basic human instincts. "The proposal seems reasonable," said Representative Kolvan of the Merchant Guild. "New species must prove their commitment to galactic stability. These terms provide a clear framework for integration." "Agreed," added Senator Morthek of the Hegemony. "The tribute payment is modest, and the territorial adjustments will help maintain regional balance." Chen stood up, knowing she was about to violate diplomatic protocol. "I request permission to address the council." The chamber fell silent. Thysek's eyes fixed on her with predatory interest. "Humans do not have speaking privileges," he said coldly. "You are here as observers only." "Then observe this," Chen replied, activating her personal communicator. "This is Ambassador Chen to Admiral Martinez. Please prepare the demonstration package we discussed." Veltar hurried over to Chen's platform.
"Ambassador, what are you doing?"
"This is highly irregular. So is demanding that my species surrender 7 worlds and accept vassal status," Chen replied. "If the council wants to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy, then humanity should have a voice in that discussion." Thisek laughed, a sound like an avalanche with a sense of humor. "Humanity's voice? You are children playing with toys in a universe of giants. Your opinion is irrelevant." "Our opinion," Chen said quietly, "is backed by our capability to defend our interests." This caused actual laughter throughout the chamber. The idea that humanity could threaten the Corvallian Empire was absurd to most of the assembled representatives. The Corvallians commanded a fleet of over 3,000 warships, including dreadnoughts the size of small moons. "Your capability?" Thysek's amusement was obvious. "I have reviewed your military specifications personally. Your entire Space Force consists of fewer than 200 vessels armed with primitive kinetic weapons. My personal squadron could destroy your entire fleet." Chen's communicator chimed with an incoming message. She read it quickly and smiled. "War Prince Thisek," she said formally. "On behalf of the United Earth Systems, I reject your ultimatum. Furthermore, I formally request that the Galactic Council witness a demonstration of human defensive capabilities." "You're going to demonstrate?" Krixeth asked, his tone suggesting he found the idea hilarious. "Against what targets?" "Against any targets you care to provide," Chen replied. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Dr. Sithara leaned forward, her crystalline form brightening with interest. "This is unprecedented," she said. "Military demonstrations are typically reserved for council members." Then consider this an application demonstration, Chen said. If humanity is to be judged by our military capabilities, then let us show what we're capable of. Thysek's expression had changed from amusement to something harder. You're serious. Completely. Very well, the War Prince said slowly. The Corvalian Empire accepts your challenge. We will provide targets for your demonstration. Veltar looked alarmed. Perhaps we should reconsider this. Military demonstrations can have unintended consequences. The only consequence, Thysek said confidently, will be humanity's humiliation. When their primitive weapons fail to penetrate even basic defensive systems, they will have no choice but to accept our terms. Agent Sixra watched the proceedings from her position in the intelligence section. Her 4 eyes tracked every detail of the exchange, and her analytical mind was already running calculations. This was either going to be a very short demonstration or a very shocking one. Chen was speaking again. We propose a simple test. The Corvalian Empire provides 3 of their standard military vessels. Outdated ships are acceptable, as long as they represent genuine military technology. We will demonstrate the effectiveness of human weapons against these targets. 3 ships? Thysek seemed almost insulted. Our smallest patrol craft could handle your entire demonstration force. Then this should be easy for you, Chen replied. The War Prince considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. I will provide 3 decommissioned cruisers from our reserve fleet. They retain full defensive systems and basic maneuvering capability. Will that be sufficient for your demonstration? Perfectly sufficient. And your demonstration force? 1 frigate. The silence in the chamber was complete. Even the normally chattering Merchant Guild representatives had stopped talking. The idea that a single human frigate would engage 3 Corvalian cruisers was so absurd that it took several seconds for anyone to respond. 1 frigate? Thysek repeated. Against 3 cruisers? Unless you'd prefer to use larger targets, Chen said calmly. Crixith leaned over to whisper something to Thysek. The War Prince nodded and turned back to Chen. Human, do you understand what you're proposing? A Corvalian cruiser carries enough firepower to level a continent. Their shields can withstand direct hits from plasma cannons. Their armor is designed to survive in the hearts of dying stars. I understand, Chen replied. Do you accept the terms of the demonstration? Thysek's predatory smile returned. Oh, I accept. This will be even more entertaining than I hoped. When do you propose to hold this demonstration? Chen checked her communicator again. Admiral Martinez reports that our demonstration vessel will arrive in the neutral zone in 6 hours. Your ships can meet us there. 6 hours, Thysek mused. Barely enough time to prepare the recording equipment. The galaxy will want to see this. As the council session ended, representatives from dozens of species began making plans to witness the upcoming demonstration. Some were genuinely curious about human capabilities. Others simply wanted to watch what promised to be an entertaining massacre. Agent Sixra made her own plans. She would be watching from a galactic intelligence monitoring station, with access to the most advanced sensors available. If the humans really did possess the weapons she suspected, this demonstration would provide the proof that no one could ignore. Admiral Sarah Martinez received the deployment orders while her task force was conducting training exercises near the Vega system. The orders were simple. Proceed to the neutral zone and demonstrate human military capabilities to the Galactic Council. Martinez had been hoping for this opportunity since the first diplomatic meetings. The aliens' condescending attitude toward human military technology had been grating on her nerves for months. Now she had official permission to show them exactly what humanity was capable of. She selected the frigate UES Retribution for the demonstration. It was one of the newer ships, equipped with the latest Mark 7 railgun systems and the most advanced targeting computers in the human fleet. More importantly, it was commanded by Captain Lisa Park, one of the most skilled commanders in the Navy. Captain Park, Martinez said over the communication channel, you're about to become either famous or infamous. The entire galactic community will be watching this engagement. Understood, Admiral, Park replied. Rules of engagement? Total destruction of all targets. Make it impressive. With pleasure, ma'am. As the human ships moved toward the neutral zone, Martinez couldn't help but smile. The neutral zone had never hosted so many observers. Ships from dozens of different species hung in space around the designated demonstration area. Their sensors focused on a volume of empty space where history was about to be made. Captain Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the alien observation fleet through her main display. She had never seen so many different ship designs in one place. Some looked like living creatures, others like geometric sculptures, and a few seemed to exist in more dimensions than her human brain could process. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres from the sensor station, "we're detecting 47 observation vessels at safe distance. Corvallian ships are approaching from the opposite vector." Park nodded. Through the view screen, she could see 3 dark shapes growing larger against the stars. The Corvallian cruisers were massive, each one easily 3 times the size of her frigate. They moved with the deliberate grace of ships that had never known defeat. "Weapons status?" Park asked. "All railgun systems online and charged," replied Weapons Officer Chen. "Targeting computers show green across the board, ready for engagement on your command." The communication system activated, and War Prince Thysek's voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you are facing the KE's Dominator, Subjugator, and Annihilator. Each ship is armed with plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and defensive shields rated for direct stellar bombardment. Are you certain you wish to proceed with this demonstration?" Park activated her own transmitter. "War Prince, this is Captain Park of the UES Retribution. We are ready to begin the demonstration." "Very well. My ships will advance to optimal firing range and engage defensive systems. You may begin your attack when ready." Park turned to her crew. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to show the galaxy what humans can do. Make every shot count." The Corvallian cruisers began their approach. Their shields flickered to life, creating shimmering barriers of energy around each vessel. Point defense systems activated, creating a network of interceptor beams designed to destroy incoming projectiles. The ship's plasma cannons swiveled toward the Retribution, tracking the small human vessel like predators watching prey. "Enemy vessels at optimal range," Torres reported. "They're maintaining formation, shields at maximum strength." Park studied the tactical display. The Corvallian ships were positioned exactly as she had expected. They were treating this like a traditional engagement, closing to energy weapon range and relying on their superior firepower and defenses to overwhelm the smaller human ship. They had no idea what was about to hit them. "Weapons," Park ordered. "Target the lead cruiser. Full power to the main gun." "Targeting Dominator," Chen confirmed. "Main railgun charged and ready." Park took a deep breath. She knew that hundreds of alien species were watching this moment. Humanity's future in the galaxy might depend on the next few seconds. Fire. The UES Retribution's main railgun discharged with no visible flash, no dramatic energy beam, no spectacular display of power. There was only a slight vibration through the ship's hull as electromagnetic fields accelerated, a tungsten slug to 3% of light speed. The projectile crossed the distance between the ships in 0.3 seconds. The Corvallian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb plasma bombardment, might as well have been made of tissue paper. The hypervelocity slug punched through the defensive barrier without slowing down, passed through the cruiser's armored hull like it wasn't there, and exited through the far side in a spray of vaporized metal. The K's Dominator simply came apart. The kinetic energy of the impact, equivalent to a small nuclear weapon, tore through the ship's internal structure. Bulkheads crumpled, decks collapsed, and the ship's reactor containment failed catastrophically. In the space of 3 seconds, a kilometer-long warship that had dominated battlefields for 2 centuries was reduced to expanding debris. On the observation ships, silence reigned. War Prince Thysek's voice crackled over the communication channel, shock replacing his earlier confidence. "Impossible. Our sensors show no energy discharge from your weapons." "That's because we don't use energy weapons," Park replied calmly. "Weapons, target the second cruiser." The KES Subjugator tried to maneuver away from the Retribution, but the human ship was already adjusting its position. The Corvallian cruiser's plasma cannons fired, sending brilliant beams of superheated gas toward the human frigate. The beams passed harmlessly through empty space as the Retribution used its superior acceleration to avoid the attacks. "Target acquired," Chen reported. "Ready to fire. Fire." The second railgun shot took the Subjugator through its engine section. The hypervelocity projectile severed the ship's main power conduits and ruptured its fuel tanks. The cruiser didn't explode as dramatically as the first ship, but it died just as quickly. Emergency lights flickered along its hull for a few seconds before going dark forever. The KES Annihilator, the last remaining Corvallian ship, had stopped advancing. Captain Park could see its weapon systems cycling through different targeting modes, trying desperately to lock onto the human frigate. But the Retribution was maintaining its distance, staying outside the range of the cruiser's energy weapons. Tysek's voice had lost all trace of its earlier arrogance. "Human vessel, ceasefire. We surrender." Park considered this for a moment. The demonstration was supposed to show human capabilities, but 2 destroyed ships had already made that point clearly. On the other hand, the galaxy needed to understand that human weapons could penetrate any defense. "I'm sorry, War Prince," she said finally, "but the demonstration calls for engaging 3 targets. The 3rd shot took the Annihilator through its command section. Unlike the previous hits, this one was deliberately precise. The railgun slug passed through the ship's bridge, killing the command crew instantly but leaving the rest of the vessel intact. The ship drifted dead in space, its hull cracked but not destroyed. Park activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, demonstration complete. Weapons to standby status." The silence from the observation fleet stretched for nearly a full minute. When communications finally resumed, the voices carried a very different tone than they had before the engagement. Agent Sixra was the first to break the silence. Her ship's sensors had recorded every detail of the engagement, and her analytical mind was already processing the implications. "Confirmed hits on all 3 targets," she reported to her monitoring station. "Projectile velocity measured at 8,147 kilometers per second. Impact energy equivalent to 47.3 kilotons. Shield penetration total. Armor penetration total. Time from first shot to mission completion, 47 seconds. Dr. Sithara's crystalline form was flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "The energy readings are impossible. No ship that size should be able to generate the power necessary for such weapons." "The power requirements aren't as high as you think," came a new voice over the communication channel. Admiral Martinez had been observing from the human flagship, and now she was ready to explain what the galaxy had just witnessed. "Most species focus on energy weapons because they seem more advanced," Martinez continued. "But energy weapons have inherent limitations. You have to generate the energy, contain it, direct it, and maintain it across the distance to your target. We took a different approach." She activated a technical display that showed the basic principles of railgun technology. "Instead of creating energy at the moment of firing, we store it in capacitor banks. Instead of trying to maintain a coherent energy beam across space, we transfer that energy to a solid projectile. The projectile carries the energy to the target and delivers it on impact." "But the velocities," protested General Crix. "Our calculations show that such acceleration requires impossible power levels. Your calculations assume we're accelerating the projectile over a short distance," Martinez replied. "Our main guns are 2 kilometers long. We accelerate the projectile gradually, building up velocity along the entire length of the barrel. The power requirements are significant but not impossible." War Prince Thisek's voice was barely controlled rage. "You've been hiding this capability. Your technical specifications claimed much lower performance." "Our technical specifications were accurate," Martinez said. "You simply didn't understand what they meant. When we said our weapons achieve 3% of light speed, you assumed we were lying. When we said our projectiles carry kinetic energy equivalent to nuclear weapons, you dismissed it as impossible. We never hid our capabilities. You just refused to believe them. The implications were sinking in across the observation fleet. If humanity could build weapons that penetrated any known defense, what did that mean for galactic military doctrine? How many human ships carried these weapons? How quickly could they build more?" Ambassador Veltar was the first to voice the question that everyone was thinking. "How many ships in your fleet carry weapons of this capability?" "All of them," Martinez replied simply. The silence returned, heavier than before. Captain Park was already receiving new orders from the Admiral. The demonstration was over, but the political consequences were just beginning. As the human ships prepared to return to their own space, Park couldn't help but notice how the alien observation vessels were giving the Retribution a much wider berth than they had before. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 18 hours straight. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in shocked silence as sensor recordings from the demonstration played for the 100th time. Each replay made the reality more undeniable. Humanity possessed weapons that made every other military force in the galaxy obsolete. Agent Sixra stood before the assembled council, no longer an ignored intelligence officer, but suddenly the most important person in the chamber. Her suppressed reports were now being treated as critical intelligence documents, and her warnings were being taken very seriously indeed. The evidence has been accumulating for months, she reported, her 4 eyes scanning the faces of representatives who had dismissed her concerns. 17 separate encounters between human vessels and hostile forces. In every case, the humans achieved total victory with minimal expenditure of resources. The pattern was clear to anyone willing to examine it. Director Thisek, who had been responsible for suppressing Sixra's reports, was notably absent from the session. He had been reassigned to other duties immediately after the demonstration. Dr. Scythara's crystalline form flickered continuously as she processed the implications. The physics are sound, she admitted reluctantly. Kinetic energy follows basic equations. Mass times velocity squared. If you can achieve sufficient velocity, even small projectiles carry enormous energy. But why didn't we think of this? Asked Representative Kolvan. If the physics are so simple, why didn't any of our species develop similar weapons? General Krix, looking older than his 800 years, provided the answer. Because we found better ways. Energy shields, plasma weapons, quantum torpedoes. We advanced beyond kinetic weapons thousands of years ago. We assumed any species would follow the same path. Humans took a different path, Admiral Martinez said from the human observation platform. She had been granted speaking privileges after the demonstration. We focused on perfecting the fundamentals instead of abandoning them. War Prince Thisek had not spoken since the demonstration. His 3 finest cruisers had been destroyed by a single human frigate, and his military reputation lay in ruins alongside the wreckage. When he finally broke his silence, his voice carried none of its earlier arrogance. How many ships do you have? He asked quietly. Currently, 843, Martinez replied. But we're building more every month. Our industrial capacity has been focused on shipbuilding since we achieved interstellar travel. The number sent a wave of alarm through the chamber. 800 ships, each carrying weapons that could destroy any known vessel with a single shot. It represented a complete shift in the galactic balance of power. Ambassador Veltar leaned forward in his chair. Admiral, what does humanity want? Martinez smiled. The same thing we've wanted since first contact. Membership in the Galactic Council. Equal status among the species of the galaxy. Recognition that we belong here. And if the Council were to refuse this request? Asked Senator Morthek of the Hegemony. Then we'll continue to expand on our own, Martinez replied. We'll build our own trade networks, establish our own colonies, and defend our own interests, with or without Council approval. The threat was implicit but clear. Humanity no longer needed the Council's permission for anything. They had the military power to enforce their own decisions. Agent Sixra activated a holographic display showing human-controlled space. Our intelligence indicates that human expansion has accelerated significantly in recent months. They now control 47 star systems and are actively surveying dozens more. They're building an empire, whispered Representative Thisek of the Merchant. Guild, we're building a civilization, Martinez corrected. The question is whether that civilization will be part of the galactic community or separate from it. Dr. Sithara's form brightened as she processed new calculations. If human industrial capacity continues to grow at current rates, they could field a fleet of over 10,000 vessels within a century. No combination of Council forces could match such numbers. The mathematical reality was stark. Humanity had solved the fundamental problem of space warfare: how to deliver overwhelming force at any range. Traditional defenses were useless. Traditional tactics were obsolete, and traditional fleet compositions were inadequate. There's something else, Sixra continued. Our analysis of human ship construction indicates they're not just building more ships. They're building better ships. Each new vessel is larger and more heavily armed than the last. She showed technical specifications that made several representatives gasp. The newest human battleships carried railgun systems that could accelerate projectiles to 5% of light speed. At those velocities, a single shot could potentially destroy multiple ships if they were aligned properly. This changes everything, muttered General Krixith. Every military doctrine in the galaxy is now obsolete. Energy shields are worthless. Armor is meaningless. The only defense against these weapons is not being where they're aimed. What about our own kinetic weapons? asked War Prince Thisik. Surely we can develop similar systems. Dr. Sithara's response was not encouraging. The engineering challenges are enormous. Human ships are built specifically to house these weapon systems, the power generation, the magnetic field projectors, the structural reinforcement required. It would take decades to redesign our ships from the ground up. Decades we may not have, Sixra added. Human expansion shows no signs of slowing. If current trends continue, they'll be the dominant military power in this region of space within 50 years. The council chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. For 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the supreme authority in this part of the galaxy. They had maintained peace through strength, arbitrated disputes through superior technology, and integrated new species through careful management of resources and military power. Now, suddenly, there was a species that didn't need their protection, didn't require their guidance, and couldn't be intimidated by their military superiority. Humanity had essentially made the entire galactic power structure irrelevant. Ambassador Chen stood up from the human platform. The United Earth Systems would like to make a formal proposal, all attention focused on her as she activated a holographic display, showing a new organizational structure. Humanity recognizes the value of the Galactic Council, she began. 50,000 years of peace and prosperity is an achievement worth preserving. But the current structure assumes that some species are more advanced than others, that newcomers must prove themselves worthy of membership. She highlighted sections of the proposed agreement. We propose a new model, full membership for humanity, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. In exchange, we offer our military technology to all council members. The offer sent shockwaves through the chamber. Access to human railgun technology would revolutionize every fleet in the galaxy. There are conditions, Chen continued. First, no species may use these weapons against other council members. Second, all member species commit to collective defense against external threats. Third, the council's decision-making process is reformed to give all members equal voice. War Prince Thisik stood slowly. You're demanding that we abandon the hierarchy that has maintained galactic stability for millennia. We're suggesting that the hierarchy is no longer sustainable, Chen replied. Humanity has proven that military superiority can emerge from unexpected sources. Today it's us. Tomorrow it might be another species you've dismissed as primitive. The old model of technological supremacy is broken. Admiral Martinez added her own perspective. The galaxy is bigger than any one species or alliance. There are threats out there that none of us have encountered yet. Rogue AI civilizations, extragalactic invaders, stellar engineering projects that could destabilize entire regions. We're stronger together than apart. Agent Sixra found herself nodding in agreement. Her analysis had shown that humanity's rapid military advancement was just one example of a larger trend. Across the galaxy, smaller species were developing new technologies, new strategies, new approaches to old problems. The assumption that the major powers would always maintain their supremacy was proving false. Dr. Sithara flickered thoughtfully. The proposal has merit. Shared technology would benefit all species, and the humans have demonstrated that they can defend themselves with or without our cooperation. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity had the military power to enforce their demands, and their proposals offered genuine benefits to all council members. More importantly, the demonstration had shattered the illusion of galactic stability. If the major powers couldn't maintain their technological supremacy, then the entire system needed to adapt. The vote, when it finally came, was closer than expected, but decisive. Humanity was granted full council membership, and the proposed reforms were accepted. The age of technological hierarchy was over, replaced by an era of cooperative equality. As the session ended, Ambassador Chen found herself surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. Some offered congratulations, others wanted to discuss technology transfers, and a few simply wanted to understand how humanity had achieved such rapid advancement.